Hello, Misfits, and welcome! In today's episode, we're talking about 5 different ways that you can start your campaign, other than the usual, we all met in a tavern. There are a lot of different ways that you can get into your game, and you've probably planned out the campaign or have an idea of what you want to do, but you don't know how the party is supposed to meet each other, let alone group together to go on this quest. So, here I am with 5 different ideas that maybe you can use in your game. Let's get into it. We all know the age-old, they all started in a tavern. Or maybe you don't, but that's sort of the quintessential way to begin a campaign, because it's just an easy way to explain why a few different random people might come across each other and might group together and do something. But you know, it's kind of the joke because a lot of people have used it, it's sort of overplayed, and a lot of us are looking for kind of a different way to begin the campaign. So, I'm going to give you 5 alternatives. Some of them are going to be kind of normal, some of them are going to be kind of out there, so I got a little bit of a variety here for you, and, you know, if you enjoy any of these, feel free to use them. So, number 1, your party could all meet at an event. Perhaps there is a fancy party or gala in town, or maybe there's some sort of like festival, like solstice festival, or a festival to the incoming harvest, or perhaps there's some sort of grandiose ceremony and a bunch of different people are invited. This could be a great event for a bunch of different people to come together and meet each other and cross paths, because that's the thing about parties, D&D parties, Pathfinder parties, a lot of the individual characters are very different from each other. So, we're trying to figure out how all of these people could meet. So, perhaps they meet at an event, and then the way you sort of jumpstart and get into your campaign is perhaps that event gets disrupted. Maybe it's attacked or sabotaged, or maybe the person that the event is for is missing and your party has to go find them. There are a bunch of different ways in which that could go wrong and kind of get you into the rest of your campaign. So this is idea number 1. They all meet at some sort of event. Number 2, this is kind of a classic, but a good one. Your party all meets while traveling. Perhaps they've all boarded the same boat bound for a specific city. Or maybe they're all on a train together. Maybe not all in the same cars, but they just happen to all be on the same train. Or maybe it's sort of like you get on this big group wagon to travel to the next town over. Whatever it is, they're all traveling kind of together, not necessarily with each other, but they just happen to be taking the same means of travel. Then, the way that you can get into the rest of the campaign is to sort of interrupt this means of travel. Perhaps the ship is caught in a storm, or attacked by another vessel, or a monster, or maybe there's a murder on the train and your party has to solve it, or maybe a special item goes missing on this train and they have to solve it. Maybe the wagon, maybe the route it's taking is blocked and you have to find another way around. There are a lot of different ways that you can upset this sort of otherwise normal thing and kind of get into the rest of your campaign. Number 3, your party all meets in jail. This is a really fun one. It's one that I've kind of always wanted to do. I've yet to have the right opportunity come up. But yeah, your whole party meets in jail together. Or maybe some sort of like, maybe it's like detention, depending on the type of game you're running. But jail, detention, whatever it is, they have been imprisoned together, and that's how they meet each other. Perhaps the various members of your party are all guilty, or maybe they're all innocent and they've been wrongfully accused, or maybe it's a mix of both, and maybe that gets them talking and sharing with each other. But how do we get into the rest of the campaign? How do we jumpstart this epic quest? Well, perhaps somebody comes to rescue them because they need them for some sort of mission. Who knows? Or maybe, they are guilty and they are turned into like a suicide squad of sorts. And it's like, fine, you're the worst of the worst. I'm gonna go send you on this suicide mission to do this thing for me. Or maybe they rescue themselves and they have to break themselves out of prison, and then the rest of the campaign follows. Whatever the reason, there are a lot of different ways that you could sort of go off of that starting point. But it'd be a really interesting and intriguing way to begin a campaign that I'm sure your players would remember. Number 4, this is an easy one. You guys all meet on a job. You've all been hired for your various skills, and you meet doing the same sort of job. There are several campaigns that begin this way. Lost Mines of Phandelver technically begins this way. I think you're all hired by the same guy to do something. But yeah, you could either be hired for your skill, or maybe the people that hired you are bad and they're looking for like a fall guy or like a scapegoat should it go wrong. Or maybe you've been hired for a really simple job that ends up getting complicated somehow. Or maybe you've been hired for an impossible job and like that's the challenge, trying to figure out how to get it accomplished. There are a bunch of different ways that you could go off of this. This is a really classic way to start a campaign that's I feel like pretty straightforward and simple to do, but you can find different ways to put your own spin on it. Number 5. This one's a little outlandish, and maybe this is something that you should wait and use with maybe a group that wants to start at a higher level, or if you've got a really specific campaign idea in mind. But you're all dead. You start out the campaign and everybody is dead, but they've been brought back for some reason. I know, it's a little weird, but stick with me for a little bit. Perhaps the entire party is raised from the dead, and that's how you begin. You wake up in a graveyard or in your grave. Perhaps, if we want to go a different route, maybe your party members were bad in a past life, or were mistaken as being bad in a past life, and you know, somebody's trying to like summon evil people to help them for their evil quest, and they accidentally summon the party. Or maybe you've been blessed by a god, and you've been brought back to life for a very specific purpose. There are lots of different ways that you could take this, but it's like a really out there kind of different experience, and I'm 100% certain that it would be a very memorable start to a campaign of just everybody being dead and then being brought back and having to maybe figure out the mystery of that or decide how they want to use this second chance at life. Lots of different ways that you could go there. But yeah, these are 5 different ways that you can start your campaign other than the usual they all met in a tavern. I have used some of these before or incorporated a lot of these different things into my campaigns and stuff. I've done the we met in a tavern. I've done the like traveling stuff and things like that. Those are really fun. There are a lot of different ways that you can take that. If you want to see how I do the traveling one, campaign 2 starts out that way, where they all meet on a ship bound for the same port, and that does not go the way that they think it will. But yeah, these are just 5 different ideas. Hopefully that you guys find these useful. If you enjoyed this video, if you found any of this helpful to you, please feel free to like and subscribe. That stuff really, really helps me out. But more importantly, leave me a comment down below. Tell me about some different ways that you have started campaigns in the past, or tell me about different ideas that you have for how you would start a game. I would love to hear about that. I'm always eager for new bits of inspiration for possible things I might do in the future. So talk to me a little bit down below. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. But with all of that out of the way, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week, and I will see you again next time. Well, we are finally approaching one of my favorite parts of this summer, which is when my group finally gets to get together and see each other in person. As I've mentioned before, and some of you probably remember, but my group is spread out across a bunch of different cities and states. We're in like 4 different time zones and maybe 5 different states and like 6 different cities. It's kind of wild. But yeah, we're never in the same place at the same time. And normally the only time we get to actually get together and see each other is like once over the summer. And that's what we're going to do really, really soon, coming up this week. So I'm super excited to actually see people. But just heads up, that means that we will not have like a normal campaign episode coming up. We should have one this Friday that will post, and that will be normal. But the next Friday, we will not have one. It will probably either be me playing more of the solo adventure, or possibly an audio recording of what my group will be playing when we're all having our little reunion together, which is the Pathfinder Beginner Box Adventure. I know. I talked about it ages ago, but we're finally getting into it. I felt like it was best if we were all in person to sort of like talk through and figure out the system together. So that's what we will be doing here pretty soon. I currently have no plans to like make a visual like video of that. It'll probably just be an audio recording. It's just very difficult to take all of my equipment to a totally different place that's really far away from me and create a video that's a quality that I am okay with. So we might do an audio recording, maybe, but I don't want to make any promises there either. So more than likely, it's going to be me playing a little bit more of the solo game that I've been doing a little bit in the background, but we'll see. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up and stuff. For those of you that play virtually or, don't get to see your players very often, what are some things that you guys do to kind of stay connected to each other? Or do you just only play? Do you just only play the game together and you don't do stuff outside of the game? I'm very interested because I feel like virtual playing is sort of a newer thing that kind of rose to popularity during the plague. And so I'm interested to see what other people do. So tell me about that down below. But yeah, have a great day, guys.